But if that inspires you, then let it inspire you. Let whatever it is that you need to inspire you, so that you understand what your why is for pursuing that career at editor-in-chief or whatever it is, and keep on crystallizing it, keep on mining it, keep on refining it, so that it's so simplistic in your thinking and in your understanding.
Welcome back to the Tea with Nikki. We are pro-tea, not anti-coffee, and if you've watched a few of my episodes, you'll know I'll say enjoy quarantini as well. I'm not judging, as long as you sit back, relax, and you're comfortable during the interview. Today I speak with Onke Dumeko, who is the editor-in-chief and group publishing director for Destiny Connect and The Bar magazine. Destiny Connect creates content for high-end business professionals, fashion lovers, and great lifestyle content. The Bar magazine explores and talks about the South African TV and film industry. I speak with Onke about how they've had to deal with the challenges that COVID-19 has brought. We also speak about what her role exactly is as editor-in-chief. We play 30 seconds and she shares some wonderfully inspiring insight as to what she believes feminine leadership is.
Okay, it's like 30 seconds, right?
Yes, exactly like 30 seconds.
Okay. Lingerie, Spice Girls.
Victoria's Secret.
Yes. He acts as an Australian. He acted as the Hulk.
Chris Hemsworth, but he was Thor.
Something that we do outside with our dogs or
walk,
just alone.
Run, jog.
Walk, yeah, walk. And then he is the head of the Catholic Church.
The Pope.
Oh, time's up. Yeah, Pope Benedict the.
The full names. Who was the Hulk? Did I get that right?
Jackman, am I right?
Hugh Jackman. He wasn't the Hulk. He was Wolverine.
What was he? He was what?
Wolverine at X-Men.
Oh, Wolverine! Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Anyway, well, it's
fine.
3.
Perfect.
Mark the correct word. Pope Benedict.
Pope Benedict.
Victoria's Secret. Walking. Oh, barbecue grill. I don't know. I just jumped. Anyway.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
All right. And now, she was the woman who was blind and deaf.
Blind and deaf. Oh, okay, go to the next one. Oh, I forgot it.
Charlie's Angels, the blind
Nightingale.
actress.
Sorry?
And Charlie's
Florence Nightingale.
Pardon?
Florence Nightingale.
No.
No.
Helen Keller.
Oh. Here, Ship. Yeah.
Time's
What are you
up.
saying? Oh no! Not again.
You had Helen Keller. The one I was trying to describe to you from Charlie's Angels with the blonde hair was Cameron Diaz.
Okay.
Then there was Fisherman, David Blaine, and LeBron James.
Okay.
Okay, let's do one more round each. So you go, and then I'll go next.
Okay. Someone who flies an airplane.
Pilot.
Someone who looks into things that they aren't supposed to be looking into. When people aren't looking, they're watching them.
Detective, spy.
Yes, spy. Something we fly in the sky that's in the form of a triangle, almost
Kite.
like a diamond. A game that starts with a C that people were twerking for.
Keep twerking for a challenge?
Yeah. So you've got kite, console, pilot, spy. The only other thing was nutpick.
Nutpick? What's that?
Nutpick. Yeah, I don't know how I was going to do that.
All right.
Yeah.
Leonardo.
I said it was Nightingale. Yeah.
So, oh my word, these are so hard. So, you know, actually can't do this. It's so hard. So it's a spice, and the combination is a flower and then Jesus's mother.
Mary.
Yeah.
Flower. Mary. Yeah, no.
That was just terrible. Wait, let me go again. These are so hard. It was rosemary.
Oh, Rose.
Okay, let me give you another chance. Because, okay, the first one was my goddess. I don't know what that is. Flamethrower. How to describe? I was trying to think like, how do I describe it? Like,
yeah, sometimes it gets.
okay. So it's the first planet after the sun.
I don't know. I don't know. Pluto.
No, Pluto's the last one.
Saturn. Mars.
No. What's in a balloon for high pitched voices?
Sorry.
What's in?
Oh, helium.
Yes.
Helium.
And you were saying it was Apple and another brand that like on the forefront of phones.
Nokia. Ericsson. Samsung.
Yes. And now time's up. So it was Mercury, the first planet.
I said Neptune, Jupiter.
But you got Samsung and helium. And then the first one was Princeton. I wasn't sure how to describe that one.
University, yeah.
Yeah. And then this other one was Yom HaAtzmaut.
I don't know that.
All right. At least we got to flex some of our general knowledge brains.
Yeah.
So throughout your career, you've been a brand manager at Brand South Africa, Colgate, Ndalo Media, an African sales company, and now you are the editor-in-chief and group publishing director at The Bar and Destiny Connect magazine. So what does editor-in-chief do exactly?
So the first thing is you need to have a good feel and understanding of the brand. And what I mean by that is in a magazine format, whether it's print or whether it's online, you need to have an understanding of who your audience is, because your audience makes up the core, like they really define the DNA of your brand. Your understanding of who you're talking to makes a world of difference, because that really shapes how you construct your content for it. So the first thing is understanding the brand by really digging into the consumer and understanding what they need and what they like and what they want, what they don't want, what they're not interested in, the type of content that they can get anywhere else, and what you are going to give to them that is completely different. And then once you have a good understanding of that and a good feel of your brand and how they of your audience and how they really consume the content across different platforms, our readers for Destiny and for Destiny Connect are different. So our readers for the print title, our readers for the online title are different. And when it comes to Destiny Connect, it has a more like Pan-African and global reach. So that's the type of thing we have to take into consideration. When it comes to the print publication, because it's really only distributed in Southern Africa, that's the type of consumer that we speak to, and that's just geographically. I haven't even touched into the other things, but overall, the understanding for us is that it's business content and all of that, and career content with an undertone of lifestyle. So once there's a good understanding of the brand and the audience that your publication speaks to, there's an editor-in-chief builds the content strategy. And what I mean by that is you have to create a content strategy that speaks to your audience across multiple platforms, because we are in the digital age, and that continues to engage them and enrich them, so that you create the expectation that this is the type of content that they'll get from Destiny, this is the type of content that they'll get from Destiny Connect. You create that expectation, you create that you create the demand, right? So that it makes your supply all the more enjoyable to put together, because you've created this great energy, this great demand around the content that you've been building consistently. And that's how it works, essentially. There are a lot more, that's just the writing aspect to it. I mean, from a design perspective, across print and online, there are various touch points that you have to be quite involved in. I mean, I said with our creative director, whenever we're doing the print publication of Destiny, we literally work like this and sit next to each other. And we go through every single article as he's laying it out. I mean, a lot of the times I send him the copy and he lays it out. But it gets to a point where we both have to agree on everything that's been laid out. So it's literally like a marriage, and you need to work very closely with your creative director so that the content comes through in such a visually impactful way. Because I mean, a lot of people think that content is just words, and it's not. It's also the images that service the words, and the images matter as much as the words, at least I believe. You really have to have a proper marrying of the two, and layouts and all of that. So you act as the brand ambassador, the representative of that magazine. So when they think of that magazine, and they have to consider whose decision is behind its positioning and its content, it's you. So from a commercial perspective, you also play quite a crucial role when it comes to advertisers and clients, and the types of clients you engage with, not necessarily with advertising, but maybe with events or whatever the case is, or virtual events in the world we live in today. And like you kind of have to be on their lips, top of their mind as well, so that they consider you as a media outlet, and they have you in mind, and you reflect the brand in essentially. Yeah.
So what has been the hardest thing for Destiny Connect and the Bar magazine during the COVID-19 lockdown? Because hearing you say about putting the content together and having a sort of work marriage with your creative director, has it also been intimidating seeing some big publishing houses like Associated Media closing down during the COVID-19 lockdown?
Yeah, such a great question. I wouldn't say it was intimidating. It was shocking. I think we were shocked like everyone else, but shocked from a place of the fact that they have such a long legacy and such a long history in the country. And, for some of the houses on the continent, so, you kind of think it's never going to happen. But I worked at an independent media publishing house before. And, I think a lot of people will throw around things like print is dying, print is dead, and it's Anna Wintour of Condé Nast. So, she works for Vogue and all that. And she said years ago that, she doubts that print will die as soon as people think it will. Because while Vogue has evolved, long time evolved digitally, people will never not want the luxuriating feel of a Vogue magazine. And similarly, Vogue, to what I was saying about Destiny Connect, the person who consumes Vogue online is quite different, and is not the same person from the one who religiously buys the magazine. Because the magazine, the print title of Vogue, is very kind of a lot of long format articles, in-depth look at lifestyle and culture and all of that. Whereas in fashion and beauty, whereas online, it's kind of like they speak to not necessarily a traditional Vogue reader. It's kind of like a younger reader who cares a lot more for the visual impact and shorter articles and all of that. I think there's that vast difference there. But so with her saying that, I agreed with her in the sense that it's not necessarily the format that has caused a lot of publishing houses or singular magazines to close down. I think really it's the approach more than anything else, because if you're a magazine and you think that the world will wait for you, it doesn't work that way. So I mean, Nokia, if you were to look at when Nokia started, they probably thought that they'd own the market forever. And I think they're finding it hard to kind of capture the market that they once had, because Apple and Samsung have run away with it, and Apple keeps itself relevant through innovation. So it's really about innovation more than anything else. And Destiny Connect, Destiny, the print title, it was actually one of the first magazines in South Africa, the first, if I'm not incorrect, to have an online magazine. Years ago. Must be like, yeah, it must be, I think it's just under 10, like 8 years ago. It was a long time ago that Destiny Connect started online. And the idea there was just to have it online. It didn't have to look like, what it currently looks now, obviously, but the idea was just to make sure that there was an online presence there, and to build and to build and to build and to build from there. And I remember at the time when Destiny Connect launched online, a lot of people thought it was a waste of money, waste of investment, waste of all of these things, but it helped the growing audience across many countries in Africa: Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Namibia, Botswana, Lesotho, Zambia. There are so many countries that consume content from Destiny Connect online, and that in turn made it much easier to build in an eventing and an experience model across the continent, which is what happened. So you had already built an audience there, you had engaged them, and it was easier for you to now physically engage them on the ground with events. It wasn't quite a hard sell, especially when it came to the business and the commercial side of it. So thinking ahead of the curve often means that you look like an idiot at the beginning. But unfortunately, if you wait too late, especially if your content is focused on fashion and beauty and lifestyle, so a lot of the brands which have closed down reflect that content. If you wait too late, you'll be sized out of the market by platforms that are just more agile and just much more quick to the curb for consumers, right? So, and Instagram, Facebook, social media in general, makes it very difficult for a fashion beauty brand to compete. What helps brands like Vogue is the fact that they have that historical legacy, and they've been very consistent when it comes to their fashion content, and to a large extent they still lead. I mean, you can see with the Vogue Challenge recently, it's still a very huge aspirational brand for people. And they're mimicking the Vogue covers reflect the print edition of it, not the online configuration or whatever. So I think there are also structural things that have to do with that. So I think that's what didn't intimidate us too much, is the fact that we don't run these magazines with very elaborate teams. It's kind of very nimble teams, very small. A lot of people would be shocked to find out how many people actually put together the magazines. It's not a traditional media house where you have a number of permanent staff that you have to pay salaries every month. A lot of the people are freelancers, whereas the core team, the day-to-day team, is very, very, very tight. So that helps in terms of offsetting overheads, which is a huge cost that compromises a lot of print titles, because advertising is not what it was. And brands require you to also, as media houses, come with much more interesting and innovative ways. It's not just, they themselves are not just interested in buying a page of advertising. They kind of want more. It's a matter of ensuring that your content, I think, is communicated in a way that doesn't size it out of the market too quickly because of other players that can do it better. And just being smart about how you run the business so that it doesn't run you out,
And speaking on staying relevant and present in what's going on and being agile, the current cover of Destiny Connect is two policewomen with a woman also in masks. It's called the COVID edition. So just want to know the story behind the cover and what is it that you're trying to capture within this particular issue of COVID-19 edition?
Our focus is business and career content for people in mid to senior level careers, and as an underlying tone of lifestyle.
Mm.
So with COVID and the way it literally shifted the world, we couldn't just come out with another cover or another issue that we would have normally done. We had actually shot one in February, which we still have the content of and the images and all of that, but the timing just didn't feel right because the story wasn't going to be relevant to what was happening in the world.
Yeah.
So I was building the content for the issue. I knew it was going to be a COVID special issue. I wanted to do a bumper issue, huge issue, basically nearly double the size of a normal magazine that we print because we weren't going to print. We couldn't print because of lockdown. And so it was just an opportunity to make the most of online anyway and give people more bang for their buck. The idea was to always have someone who reflects the informal sector. And we'd actually wanted to do that a while because the informal sector of business is such an underlying and important foundational sector in this country. It's just that people don't perceive it that way. And a lot of our readers, a lot of our cover stars and all of that, they are in some way or the other related to an informal sector story. They were either raised by a parent who started their business in that way, or they know someone in their family who runs an informal sector business. It's just really the sector of business in this country that is underestimated, that is undervalued, but that contributes so much to the economy. And because, you know, as an economy, we just haven't taken the time to position them as that, doesn't mean they don't play a crucial role. So COVID came and we were all scared into this thing of the fact that it's airborne and it spread so quickly and everything that was happening in Europe with countries like Italy, and it was headed to South Africa. And what our health minister and our presidency had always told us was, you know, these are the basic things: wash your hands with hot water, social distance, and to work from home. And I think in a country like South Africa, the thing that we kept on thinking of was, okay, I can see how you can do that if you're sitting in the UK or in Germany, but for the majority of people in South Africa, they don't have running hot water, right? For the majority of people in South Africa, they live in compromising conditions where you have 10 to 20 people living in one house, right? So the fact that COVID-19 is quite highly unlikely the biggest problem in the country. It is more of an indicator of what our underlying socioeconomic issues are, and how they affect the economy, how those things are affecting the economy because they're not sorted 26 years into democracy. So we thought about representing that through the informal sector, because an informal sector business owner has the same challenges as a person, well, not necessarily all of them, but it's a highly likely possibility that they have those challenges, but they still have to run their business for them to survive. They depend on people not social distancing and not working from home, because a lot of their businesses are run on the side of the street, for example. They depend on that human interaction and all of that. So how do they survive, and how are they because, you know, it's not necessarily that they could get a stimulus check from the government. So that was the inspiration behind it. And then we just had to kind of wait for a moment that represented it for us. So when we saw that trend on Twitter, I said to Legend, who is the publisher who I work with, I just said to him, you know what, this is it. This is a cover. We'd actually briefed in something similar, but it just wasn't it. Until we were having a conversation on the phone, and I just said, this is what we have to depict, because this image is going to reflect this time and what the reality really was for a country like South Africa more than anything else. I think around the world, the challenges are different. In Italy and, you know, in China and some parts of the USA, it was more about the health workers and how they're overwhelmed, you know. In South Africa, our health workers are still not overwhelmed with coronavirus patients, and their stress is more related to working conditions for themselves, which were that way before the coronavirus. So we just felt like that cover had to reflect the structural issues in the country that affect the business of the country, because
Yeah.
that's essentially what they do. The majority of those businesses, the majority of the businesses in South Africa are informal businesses, right? So, and it was a kind of catch-22 situation. You know, the police were wrong for doing the right thing, and she was right for doing the wrong thing, essentially. So that was the inspiration behind it.
Wow, that's incredible and so true. There's been statistics and talks as well of the amount of unemployment that is going to be, the kind of the aftermath after this COVID-19 lockdown, because we were already at about 26%, I think, unemployment. No, higher. And I think now it's going to be...
Now, yeah, we are...
And now it's going to be higher. And it's like you're saying, because the informal sector can't operate. And I know we aren't politicians or health workers or anything like that, but I'd like to ask your opinion. What do you think would have been the best way for South Africans to have dealt with the COVID-19 situation? Because we aren't the UK or Italy where we can work from home. We depend a lot on the informal sector. So what do you what is your opinion on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think the challenge with the presidency is the fact that our situation is very unique. So we're a third and first world country with, like, you know, the in between is next to nothing, even though, you know, we might think that that's the reality. Our income inequality gap is still one of the highest ones in the world. So it's unique in the sense that, okay, how do you combat this virus, taking into consideration everyone's needs? The fact that, you know, you have a smaller portion of society that can do the basic things but might retaliate for whatever reason, because they are not used to being confined and, you know, being told what to do and all of those things. And then you have the majority of South Africans who might want to do it and might want to do it, but the majority of South Africans who also want to protect their families and all of that, but don't necessarily have the means to. So it's not that they don't care, it's just that there are no means. You know, if I'm hungry, you know, a virus is the least of my worries, because the thing that I battle every day is poverty. So I think that there's no right answer to this. Because our situation is so unique. For me, the biggest thing is that, and for me, it's more of a lesson going forward. Is this opportunity, which it is, this opportunity expresses the notion that as a country, we need to really make sure that it is set up for the welfare of every single citizen, regardless of their income, that every single citizen has the basic needs available to them. So that whenever another pandemic hits us, whenever that will be, we're not scrambling trying to fix the basic things that we should have sorted out. You know, segregation and oppression has happened in this country for over 200 years. And you cannot compare 26 years of democracy to that. But 26 years is a long time to make sure that the basics are in place. So running water, flushing toilets, it's a long time to make sure that everyone has those basics. It's actually enough time. So it's more of a going forward thing, I think, because then you are just more prepared for anything, and you can activate your citizenry in a much more efficient way. There are just certain things that I'm against, like the re-banning of alcohol and all of that. I don't think it makes sense. I think the initial ban was fine and all of that. I can understand them, but the re-banning of them in the context, not only in the context of everything else that's happening with gender-based violence or whatever, but just because of the what that does to the employment in this country, I think causes more damage than it will to an increased infection rate, because people need to survive. And I think the alcohol industry, it employs a lot of people. It contributes a lot to the GDP, and I think it's irrelevant whether you drink or not. It's not even about that. It's literally about people having sustenance, and we're not the type of country that can say, if you work in the alcohol industry or if you work in the tobacco or whatever's banned, we can give you a stimulus check for the salary that you've earned. We don't have that type of a situation. So I don't know if banning is was the right decision, and if banning is going to really make that much of a difference going forward. The key thing is to make sure that welfare systems are in place and remain that way.
Yeah. On your LinkedIn, I saw that you wrote a mantra that you live by is leadership is a privilege, not a right, and it is to be earned in the arena of action, because ultimately leaders should not create great followers, they should create great leaders. This is what drew you to Destiny Connect, considering the content that...
I think it's something that I've always learned in my career, that you don't... my first boss, who is my mentor today still, he always taught me that, the best way, you're doing your job as a manager or a director or a CEO or whatever, the best way you're doing your job as a leader is if everything can run without you. So if it can run without you physically there, that's when you've done your job, because you've imparted as much knowledge as you possibly could. You've empowered other people to do it. Given, in the context of there being enough hands to do that, and not, one person literally assigned to one task, because your work reflects through the work that other people do. So it did inspire me, because I think, the premise of Destiny is always is business and business and all of that. Whereas the premise of the Bar magazine, which focuses on film and TV content, is really about setting the standard, where we focus on individuals who have set the standard, who have done something so outstanding in their own right, that it's impacted the industry, that's shaped around those individuals. So yeah, definitely.
What would be your top tip for someone who's an aspiring editor-in-chief?
Know your why and stick to your why. So why do you want to do it? And don't be pressurized by having to have a reasoning that is very deep and convoluted and whatever. It can actually be very simple. Like, you could watch The Devil Wears Prada and kind of want that life, right? The only person I can think of who really lives like that is Anna Wintour. But if that inspires you, then let it inspire you. Let whatever it is that you need to inspire you, so that you understand what your why is for pursuing that career at editor-in-chief or whatever it is, and keep on crystallizing it, keep on mining it, keep on refining it, so that it's so simplistic in your thinking and in your understanding, that it's not something that you have to take a long time to explain. I'm sure you've heard of the elevator pitch, that concept where you kind of pitch yourself for 60 seconds.
Yes.
It essentially should be that, or like even shorter. Like, just know what your why is, because your why is always something that you're going to stick to when times get tough, and there is absolutely no job that is glamorous. Know your why and stick to it, and don't be moved by it. Remember it. So the simpler it is and the more authentic it is to yourself, the much easier it is going to be for you to stick with it. Yeah, essentially.
And being in the publishing industry and magazine industry, it is quite a female populated industry. I mean, like you've mentioned, Anna Wintour, Devil Wears Prada, yourself as well, editor-in-chief. What does feminine leadership look like to you with regards to being in an industry that some would say is regarded as a female dominated industry?
Feminine leadership to me looks ready. I think the world is ready for a lot of women to actually just take over, because even if you look at the countries where COVID, the COVID numbers have dropped drastically, or the recoveries are higher than the infection. So a lot of those places are led by women. A lot of them, New Zealand, Taiwan, they just have such a great track record. And I think it's partly because of the fact that, you know, men generally don't like to get their hands dirty. So while they have a lot of the power, yeah, I'm sorry, but it's true. While they have a lot of the power, and they, you know, power, even if you like in a lot of contexts, power is masculine, you're right. And that's the type of power that people accept easily. It's a masculine one. If there's a feminine power associated with it, there's always some type of negative connotation around it. But so women are always the ones who are left to clean up the mess, essentially. So when it comes to having a situation like this where it's just pandemonium, women are just more adept to getting on with it and getting it done. So while you have a lot of women who are editors or beauty editors, fashion editors, all of that, in terms of the ownership and all of that, it's still quite masculine. So the people who own the publishing houses, there are a lot of women, but the majority of them are still men. So there's still a long way to go in terms of the ownership where it comes to publishing. But yeah, man, feminine leadership is ready. The world needs it. It's literally a matter of life and death, you know. I mean, it was an interesting thing to watch, because the thing is, women just generally do bring something different. And I think historically that difference has always been looked at as weaker or not as strong and dominant and all of that. But feminine qualities are really what COVID has taught us, is that they are really underestimated in terms of their power, and they're really going to become way more important. You know, you will keep your workforce if you are compassionate, if you are do you know what I mean? Like, if you're more insightful as to what people's everyday situations look like, you know, if they have to homeschool their kids and they have to answer emails and all of that. So it's ready in the sense that feminine leadership has always been that way. It just hasn't been appreciated for what it was.
I love those answers, and I think definitely within social and business environments, we're going to have to take the ready feminine leadership of compassion into the future. And it's becoming a lot more present now as well in the work, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And I want to move to a segment that I like to call the ABCs of your career. So A, for what was your affluent, amazing aha moment?
That I could create my own job. So I think a job spec is, I mean, you are in recruitment, so you know that it's something that is important, I think, from the organization, so that you know exactly what you're getting yourself into, that when you come for that interview, you can respond to 80-90% of those things, hopefully. And one thing I've learned is that there is also an opportunity in getting into the organization, identifying what's not there, and seeing if you can create it, and kind of shifting and creating your own type of work, right? So recreating your job spec. So I've done that quite a lot, you know, because I just felt like sometimes what I was doing just didn't add enough value, or the type of value that I wanted it to add. Sometimes the solution is to kind of sit within yourself and understand the true reflection of the environment around you and the true dynamics of it, because there could be a gap that hasn't been filled that you can fulfill, and how you create and evolve your career yourself, and you empower yourself by doing that. So that's the biggest aha thing I've learned.
That's such a wonderful approach to how to look at a job spec, and then also once you've entered the workspace, how to, you know, sort of edit your job spec as well. So I love that.
Yeah.
And B, what was your bad business blunder?
So, okay, when we started with Destiny Man 2.0, you know, I think the approach was really to treat the brands like productions, and the challenge there was that the costs, and I know I was talking about overheads in terms of staffing, but in terms of putting it together production wise, the visuals, the videos, we're a lot about visuals and videos and video content and all of that type of content you can engage with, but the costs around that were quite high. So and it's something we've had to rethink about and restructure, and how do we still get to the same product with forget staffing aside, because that was fine, but how do we get to the same product with a completely reconfigured production cycle? So, and it's interesting that you say it's a blunder, because failure is really a learning opportunity. Yeah. That's really what it is. And you can either decide to fail backwards and recreate those mistakes, or to fail forward. So that situation was really an opportunity for us to fail forward and to reconfigure the business, to reconfigure the brands with a production cycle that made more sense for everybody. Yeah.
And your cinematic worthy cock up moment.
Wow. Ooh. The thing is, I have so many. Okay, so I remember when I was on the set for The Bar, I was going to interview an actress. I don't know if I should mention her name. Wonderful person, very nice lady, brilliant actress. And I was just so unaware. Self-awareness is huge. And I thought I was, but oh my gosh. And I had no idea that I was being so much. I was being a lot. And Legend had said to me, no, I want you to be involved and give ideas as to how this should be shot, and how, he wanted me to be super involved. At that time I was freelancing for it, so I wasn't there full time. He wanted me to be super involved in all of this, so I was kind of trying to be super involved and give my opinion here and there and all of these things. The thing is, it was my first time on essentially what is a film set, because we really treated them like film sets. So I didn't understand at the time that a DOP, a director of photography, that person, it's their, it's what they want. It's their vision. DOP and a director, it's their vision as to how the thing goes, So I was there. I'm the editor. I all have a say and all of this. And I completely missed the mark that, hey, you're not that quite high up the rung when it comes to a production set of this nature. So yeah, I was a lot that day. I had to apologize many times. But I was just, it was a matter of self-awareness, but and lack thereof. So
I like to end off the interviews with 3 quick fire questions, so you can't prepare for these. So it's just something that comes to the front of mind. So are you a morning person or an evening person? Evening. What are 3 books that you would recommend for us to read?
The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates, Thrive by Ariana Huffington, and Nervous Conditions by Tsitsi Tsangaremba.
And what is a daily ritual that you can't live without?
Praying.
Do you pray every day, every morning or evening?
Both, but differently. So morning, it's quicker. Evening is a lot more candles and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Do you kind of pray within gratitude of your day, or is it wrap up of the day? What's the difference between?
What is gratitude? I mean, gratitude is both at the beginning and the end of the day. In the morning, I like to just be grateful for very basic things like waking up and a roof over my head, and I feel like it really changes the energy of my day. I say some affirmations, and then I get on with it. In the evening, it's gratitude for the day, but it's more guidance as to the days to come and the weeks to come and the months to come. So that's kind of the difference. Yeah.
Okay. That's all for the interview. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for all your special insights as well. And I hope that you have a wonderful week. And I can't wait to see what comes up on Destiny Connect.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Nikki.
I think I'm going to have to agree with Onke saying that the world is ready for feminine leadership. COVID-19 has definitely pushed us into a sphere that business world has not seen before and is demanding that the business environment be a lot more compassionate. I love what you had to say about following your inspiration, following your passion, and finding your why. Following that and digging deeper in order to refine it, because when the going gets tough, you have your why and that'll keep you going. I also love the content that Destiny Connect provides, and their cover just seems so fascinating. If you don't know Destiny Connect, please have a look, see the cover that I'm speaking about. It wasn't an actual shoot, it was a cartoon, but it speaks volumes as what Onke described.